and the U.S. holds on to a 2-0 victory over their Canadian rivals. Herc, what'd you make of the U.S. performance?
So let's take the performance with a grain of salt, because it was the number 1 team in the world, according to the rankings, versus the number 6 team in the world. But they looked worlds apart, and that's a reality here. Why? I think the Canadian women's national team is dealing with a lot more than just the U.S. women's national team to date. And it looked like that was weighing heavy on them. They looked slow. They looked reactionary. They looked second best the whole night. That said, I wasn't quite thrilled with what I saw from the U.S. women's national team. The scoreline was good. You always want to win.
Yeah.
You want to capitalize on mistakes. You want to provoke the opponent to making mistakes. But when you start looking at the way they played compared to the teams they will play against, it's a team that sorely relies on how vertical they can be and the physical traits. And in the final third, when the spaces close down, the ideas close down as well. So I was left struggling to really come up with a lot of positives to say given the circumstances about the women's national team.
So I've criticized this U.S. team under Vlatko Ananovsky a lot for the lack of finishing, and even sometimes beyond that, Herc, for the lack of creating chances. I felt like we really saw that throughout last year at times, definitely in the high-level international friendlies, and then even a little bit early this year against New Zealand. And for me, that was very worrisome. Remember, I gave him something like a C+ for those games against New Zealand. I thought this, considering that the opposition is a major step up, right? Canada are the reigning Olympic champions. The fact that the U.S., and I'll acknowledge what you say is true, the Canadian team is dealing with off-the-field issues, but let's acknowledge that this U.S. team has won world titles dealing with very significant off-the-field issues.
Not a lot of these players, Seb. You keep mentioning that, and that to me is, hey, you're mentioning the crest, which is great. But look at the starting 11. How many of those players were part of those teams? This is a different team now. And when you look at the way they play that 4-3-3, I'm looking at Trinity Rodman in comparison to where she's at in that trident up top with Swanson and Alex Morgan, and I'm thinking to myself, is she playing as a winger? Is she playing as a wingback? There seems to be, the cohesion is not where it needs to be in the midfield. It's still very slow, not in transition.
But we're judging them on tonight. I mean, this could have been 3 or 4-0 at the end of the first half.
I'm judging them on tonight.
And that's without Rose Lavelle in your starting lineup. You talk about a midfield, Ashley Sanchez steps in. I mean, they were all over this Canadian team.
Yeah.
You saw the good saves from Sheridan. I'll allow that wasn't the best finishing. Trinity Rodman had some chances. Alex Morgan had some chances. And Alex Morgan needs to be on fire for this team to win the World Cup. She was rusty tonight, but I'm not worried about that. Well, I think you have to acknowledge that this team played the Olympic champions and played them off the park, Herc. Yeah. That has to be good, especially when you got somebody like Ashley Sanchez stepping in for Rose Lavelle.
Nobody doesn't acknowledge that. I acknowledge that they were better than Canada. Like I said in the opening statement, 1 versus 6, but they look worlds apart. So I'm taking that with a grain of salt. They provoked Canada into mistakes. But in the build-up, everything Vlatko, we've heard of Vlatko, and they said they were going to do. Vlatko says he was going to initiate with this program. That's still been lacking. The creation, the actual build-up play.
You don't think they created chances tonight early on? Those chances weren't good enough for you? I mean, you don't. How did
they create the chances? Did they create in build-up, or they provoke the opponent?
A lot of it was press, but you get credit for the chances you create from press.
Yes, Seb. I'm not saying you don't get credit for that, but you're telling me, I assume, that what Vlatko said the message was going to be with this women's national team, he's delivered. That's what you're saying.
No, you got to deliver titles and trophies.
Well, and you also, just in comparison to the rest of the world, England, Germany,
a comfortable
Spain.
2-0 defeat of the reigning Olympic champions is a significant result, Herc. It also...
Nobody says it's not.
It also, by the way, gets me my parlay that I told you about on Monday night. What did I tell you? I said take Brazil against Japan, take the U.S. against Canada.
Japan.
Plus 360 was the payout on that, so... Hope y'all listen to your boy Seb. Here's a look at the SheBelieves Cup standings. As I mentioned, Brazil beat Japan in their game before the U.S. and Canada. So right now it's U.S. and Brazil with 3 points. Up next on Sunday, U.S. against Japan and Brazil against Canada.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.